Hi, I'm Billy Gwaltney, and this is the CYA Podcast. This show is for the physician who understands the importance of protecting everything you've worked so hard to achieve. Each week, I'll bring you tips and advice to help you cut through the clutter and misinformation and show you exactly what you need to preserve your income and way of life. If you're ready to achieve the peace of mind that only financial security can bring, let's get started. Welcome to today's episode of the Cover Your Assets podcast. This is Billy Gwaltney, your host, and I'm really excited to be with you today, as always. The question I'm going to answer today is what's next? Is for a physician who's looking at their specialty own occupation disability coverage, and they're asking the question, what do I do next after getting the discounted quotes for the top 4 specialty occupation disability contracts? And so I work with physicians across the country who are looking at purchasing private specialty own occupation disability coverage to follow them through their career. Most of our clients are in training whenever they start looking and purchasing their coverage. I certainly work with attendings that for various reasons didn't get around to this in training. The process, and this question comes up a lot, the answer to the question is essentially the same, whether you're in training or not. But I want to go through this and kind of answer that question that comes up quickly, which once you get the spreadsheet, what do you do next? And there are a handful of things you can do to kind of get you to the goal line of where you want to be, which is securing coverage. The first one is you can review the spreadsheet PDF with the top 4 contracts. Keep in mind, as I've mentioned this in numerous other podcasts, and would talk with you about it if and when we talk in person. And I'm assuming this podcast is to someone who is purchasing. Okay, so I'm addressing this to physicians who are listening in, wanting to know what the next step is. The spreadsheet you're reviewing, as of this time, spring of 2023, contains 4 columns, Mass Mutual, Guardian, Principal, and Emeritus. These are 4 separate insurance companies that offer the true specialty own occupation disability coverage. These are the only 4 contracts you would want to have. It gets muddy very quickly outside of these 4. So that's why I'm an independent broker. None of the companies pay my overhead. I could, if there were 5 or 10 or 20, I would show that many. I have access to, most brokers can access about 75 or 80 companies. So it's not the company access that is why there aren't more. It's because these are the only 4 that have definitions that you would be glad you had with no moving parts. Okay. So we put this in there. It's in the spreadsheet. It's got 4 columns. And you can start by looking at those 4 columns. You're going to notice that the majority of the terms appear to be the same, and they are the same with all 4. The rates are going to be down at the bottom. The rates may vary significantly depending on your specialty or your age or your situation. They may be very close to each other. It just depends on the situation as to whether or not there's much of a variation. The first thing I mentioned to clients is it's totally okay to pick the cheapest one or one of the less expensive ones if you want. The size of a company's discount is a lot of what drives the rate. And if one's less expensive, it means they have a bigger discount. Discounts are driven by a company's desire for growth, not the quality of their contract. And so you can pick one that you're paying more for. That more times than not does not mean you're getting that much more value. It just means you decided to pick them for a different reason. But it is okay to pick the least expensive or one of the less expensive ones. So you can start by reviewing the contract. I have a number of podcasts. The next thing is you can listen to some podcasts on your own time and, whenever it's convenient for you, working out or whatever. I've done a podcast where I walk through the spreadsheet kind of line by line and answer kind of the questions of what do these terms mean? What's the difference? How do they differ with each other? And so there's a podcast that goes through that. There's a podcast I did called the 10-Minute Crash Course on Disability Insurance. I've done a podcast on explaining the true specialty own occupation definition of disability, talking about the enhanced residual benefit, talking about the recovery benefit, talking about the benefit increase rider, talking about the COLA, the elimination period, all those things. Also talking about the medical screening. There is streamlined medical screening for this coverage up front, and I've done podcasts covering that. So you can listen to podcasts. Another thing you could do is read my book. I've come out with a book called Disability Insurance for Physicians, spot on for this particular topic. It's on Amazon. It actually made the Amazon #1 bestseller list in about, I think, 3 different categories. Really proud of that. It came out in early 2023. A lot of clients have indicated, have read that. Talked to a client yesterday who read it in a couple of hours over the weekend, and she found it really helpful. It gave her kind of answered the majority of the questions she had. And then what that leads to is the next thing you can do is schedule a call. If I've communicated with you, if you've gotten a spreadsheet from me, there will be a link. There should be a link for you to schedule a call. It's like in 30-minute blocks. The more kind of pre work you've done, the quicker our phone call can really get to your specific situation, which one of these contracts makes the most sense for you, and talking about what's unique to you and helping you drill down to a solution. So you can certainly schedule a call. I do want to say that whether you schedule a call or not, you're going to get the same level of care from me either way. I don't put people that I talk with ahead of the line of people that I don't talk to. I love working with physicians, and I really admire physicians in training. You're overworked, underpaid. I talked about this in my book. And I admire, that it takes a lot of fortitude to put your life on hold to get really good at something and to go into debt to do it. In a lot of cases, to live on, kind of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the meantime and work really, really long weeks and shifts and days. And so I admire that. So if you don't have time for a phone call, please know that you're going to get the same level of care from me, whether we do a call or not. One question that comes up is, hey, what if I don't have time to do research for this? And that is, time is of the essence and you don't have a lot of it. That spare time, I would say, again, with me, you're going to get the same level of care whether you do your research or not. The barometer I use when I'm advising someone is, what would I do in your situation, knowing what I know behind the scenes? Okay. That's why we only show 4 companies, because these are the only 4 that are going to perform the way you expect them to. Unfortunately, we have clients on claim. All of them get paid. Okay. And I'm proud of that. I do not want to have to say that some don't because we went with a different contract that didn't have the definitions that it should. And so we stick to these 4. You're not making a mistake with any. If you look at the spreadsheet and pick the cheapest one, you're going to be well served. Okay. So when I advise people, I say, what would I do if I was in your situation? When I look at your spreadsheet and factor in your specialty and what your income could be, and kind of the other thing I do is advise, if you were my brother or sister and you came to me and said, hey, Billy, I don't have a lot of time for this. Which one of these should I do? Then I offer advice in that scenario. None of these companies pay my overhead. I can offer advice. I can give feedback on who's easier to deal with. If you need an exception, if you, at the time of claim, how many, who has fewer hoops you have to jump through, that kind of thing. There's certain parameters of coverage. Some have higher maximum coverage limits that you might want to factor in. And so I can certainly offer feedback and provide insight based on the experience I've had working with thousands of physicians and helping people go through the claim process, helping people through underwriting, helping people increase their coverage, and so forth. And so I've seen these companies behind the scenes. I know them. I've had conversations with them, and I've seen them perform. And so I can certainly offer feedback for that. Again, the barometer I use is, what would I do if I was you, or what would I tell my brother and sister to do if they asked me? And that's kind of the perspective that I take whenever I'm thinking about this or answering those questions. If when you're ready to proceed, you just pick the company you want, you pick the elimination period you want, you pick the cost of living option you want, whether or not you want that on there, and then you can let me know. Once you let me know, I would send you a DocuSign form or an intake form. It may be DocuSign. It could be through our website. It'll initiate the process where you provide personal and medical information electronically. That usually takes, 10 or 15 minutes. That's part of the medical screening. There is streamlined medical screening for this coverage up front. So I would send that to you. That's the first step. Then you e-sign an application electronically. And then you answer some medical questions. They have about 20 or 25 medical questions they ask everybody. They either ask that through a secure link that you fill out electronically, or over the phone, where you'll speak with an underwriter that goes through a list of 20 or 25 questions that they ask everyone they speak to. But that would be the next step. So we have had plenty of clients that have looked at the spreadsheet, said, I want Mass Mutual or I want Emeritus. They pick the one they want. I want this elimination. I want this COLA option. And then we get them what they need, and then they're off and running. Okay. So it can be that easy. You're not making a mistake with any of these. However, I am prepared to go into as much detail as you want. If you want to go into the weeds and read the entire contract and pick a line and talk about it, I'm happy to do that. I've looked at these contracts. I would be glad to do that. If you want to know how the watch is made, I'll show you. I'll talk with you about how the watch is made. If you just want to know how to tell time or how to set it up or how to get it in your time zone and get it working, then I'm happy to help you with that part too. I have clients across the board that some want to know every intricate detail. Others want to know, tell me what I need to do next. And then I help them do that. And that's kind of the point of this is where do you go from here? I'd be glad to schedule a call. We'll be glad to answer questions via email. I encourage you to take advantage of the resources that are out there. My podcasts are fairly short, usually 10 minutes or under. Sometimes they may go to as much as 15 minutes, but I try to keep them really short and sweet and get to the point like I'm doing here. Even now, I feel like I'm rambling. I apologize for that, but I just want to make sure that I cover this. The medical screening process can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 8 weeks, so it can take a while for that. If you're up against the end of training and you initiate that process, we have a 90-day window or so to wrap everything up. You're going to be fine with we've never lost a discount for someone who initiates this on their way out the door from a training standpoint. There's no insurance physical required for trainees typically. And so you don't have to see a nurse or get labs or any of that. The medical screening is all electronic and over the phone. Your involvement with your to-do list would take you less than a half hour. Again, it can take a month or two for the insurance company. We keep you posted along the way. We're in touch with the underwriters every day. And so we communicate, get everything to you. All the materials and forms and documents are delivered electronically. So we make sure you have those securely. The last thing I'll say as far as the next step, please take action before your health changes or before a disability occurs. Please don't roll your eyes at that. Yes, I'm the insurance broker. Yes, I get paid if you buy insurance. Okay. I'd love to work with you. But I would say this, whether I'm the broker or not, whoever you work with, just get your insurance before it's too late. Statistically, the chances of a disability are much higher than most people think, 10 to 15% chance of that, much higher than the chance of death, likely higher than the chance of being sued. Your biggest exposure financially, the thing that could derail your career quicker than anything else is a disability. So check this box, get this done. If you do it right, if you stick with these 4, if it has the key definitions that I make sure all of my clients have, they're on the spreadsheet, and I've done other podcasts talking about that. Happy to explain to you what those key definitions are if we talk or communicate via email. But as long as it has those, you can pick any of these top 4 and you're going to be really, really well served. Okay. And then you can get this put to bed, check that box, and not have any moving parts. You can increase your coverage in the future. You don't have to redo any medical screening, assuming the policy's issued and you're healthy-ish. If you're healthy-ish, the rate on the spreadsheet that I provided you is the rate you're going to get. You don't have to be perfect to get that rate. However, it doesn't take much of a change in health if you start having headaches or you tweak your back or get PT on your knee to where some things could be excluded. And so you just want to try to, you want to get this when you're as healthy as possible. And even if you have exclusions, a lot of those exclusions can be removed in the future. So you after a certain time period elapses, and you want to get the clock ticking on that time period ASAP. Get the coverage in place. Don't wait around and just kick the can down the road and deal with it later. You can start with a smaller amount to fit your budget and still check all those boxes and be able to ultimately end up with the coverage you're going to want or need as an attendant. I hope you found this helpful. I wanted to go through this quick, but hopefully I've covered the key elements of essentially what the next steps are. Reach out to me. You can text me at 704-270-2376. Again, 704-270-2376. And I'll get you a link to schedule a call, or we can answer questions and help you any way I can. Grateful for your time, as always. I look forward to speaking with you hopefully soon.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.